your bike is heavy. Let's say you have could be the new Kojo with 32 amp lead acid batteries, could be the Talia with 32 amp hour, could be the Zone with 45 amp hour lead acid batteries. The Ministry of Transportation says that an e-bike cannot be more than 120 kilos, which works out to about 250 pounds. Every manufacturer, so Emo, Tao, Daymac, and all these other little ones like E-Global, Canis Motors, little guys, it doesn't matter. My point is that every single supplier or importer of e-bikes brings in bikes that are heavier than 120 kilos. So the answer is or the question is, well, how can that be? I don't have exactly an answer. And again, I bring this up because a customer got a bike and he's like, well, it's heavier than 120. It's like, it is. He's like, but that's not the law. And I'm like, you're right. It is a kind of gray. And he's like, well, no, that's black and white. And he's right. Like, he's absolutely right. So I think that, okay, well, here's the answer. Don't buy that bike. Don't buy that lead acid bike if that's something that you are concerned about. You'll have to spend more money on lithium. So instead of a $37.99 Zone GTS, which is 72 volt, 45 amp hour, then you're going to have to spend $1,000 more for less distance with the 30 amp hour lithium. Or if you want the same and more distance, you're going to have to go with a 50 amp hour Emo Zone, and that's going to be $58.99. So now you're spending over $2,000, $2,100 plus tax, just so you can fit within the law because you want to be a law-abiding citizen. Well, if you're buying a motorcycle style e-bike, then at some point you will probably find that you're going to want to ride with traffic, and because you'll feel safer. That's a whole other video, but my point is that Ministry of Transportation says that none of the websites from any of these companies disclose, because there's like 10 different bikes, batteries that you can choose. They don't have the exact weight of each of these, but there are certain bikes when you get into big lead acid batteries, whether it's a scooter style, but mostly the motorcycle style, you're going to weigh more than 120 kilos. Here's my question. Is a police officer going to weigh your bike? And and how can they weigh their bike? But if they feel it, they're like, oh, that's more than 120. Can they prove it? But let's rewind. How did you get pulled over and how did you get in trouble with the police in the first place? Not exactly the right answer, but it's a fair question. So number one, don't buy a bike with 32 amp hour or higher lead acid batteries in it, because you're going to be over the weight no matter what style you get. Number two, continue with the rules with that bike, because it might be overweight. You can't physically pedal them, but they have pedals on them. So more of a gray area, more of a risk, more of, how do I say this? Like, I'm so delicate with this, and then sometimes I'm not, but if that's a concern of yours and you're a very law-abiding citizen, then don't buy a full-size motorcycle e-bike. Period. That's it. If that's something you concern, because anybody who rides these full-size motorcycles are breaking the black and white law a little bit here and there at some point, 100% for sure. So, and at the end of the day, people like to blame the suppliers. They like to blame the dealers. But you still, what if you bought something off of Alibaba and it got here? What are you going to do then? You got to do your research, and you have to understand, okay, if I get into trouble, if I run into law authority, then this is something that might arise. Also, not being able to pedal your bike will probably arise. There's going to be a lot of things arising when you're driving a very large motorcycle style, but at the end of the day, you have to be respectful. So if you do get pulled over for whatever reason, let's say you didn't, you made a left on a red or something like that, then you still have to deal with the repercussions of being pulled over in the first place. Long email, I'm sorry. But it's like we're talking like you're YouTube viewers are in front of me, and this is how I ramble sometimes and get on, you know, get off of subjects or whatever, but as I'm doing right now. So let me know your feedback. I would love it.